says it's time to rock and roll.
Okay, dudes, let's walk this sucker.
All right.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Into the Comiverse. Very special episode. I got some people sitting in the back. As tonight, we're going to take a show and we're going to discuss the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, the master, also known, the creator of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. We'll talk about the movies, the films, all that cool stuff. And, let me welcome my panelists in the back. First, we got Evil Mike. How you doing?
Hey, Tony.
Hope everything's been doing good. I know we got cold, we got fires. Prayers to everyone out in Los Angeles suffering from the wildfires.
Right.
Tonight, making his first appearance on the show and his first appearance on just YouTube live in general, we have my brother Jeremy. How you doing?
What's up? What's up, bro?
Hey, Jeremy.
And also, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but this may be her first time on the show as well. But we have Caroline, Lady F.
I was on your game show.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was about to say.
Yeah.
Hey, Lady F.
Hey, what's up, Mike? What's up, Jeremy?
Hey, what it do?
What's up?
Tony.
Y'all, so I came up with this idea, during Christmas. I decided for the first time, because they've been out forever, to watch the extended editions of Lord of the Rings. And then that got me going, hey, I'm going to do a show on Lord of the Rings. And then it went from Lord of the Rings to just, let's talk about Tolkien's books in general. And I went, okay, Tony, you know nothing about the books, so you need some help. So I reached out, and they came.
Yeah.
So,
Did you, when those movies were released in the early 2000s, did you go see them in the theaters?
I did not get to see Fellowship with the Ring, but I saw the other two.
Okay.
Two Towers. And
Yeah.
Return of the King.
Yeah.
how did you see Fellowship? Because at that time, it was, VHS and going to DVD.
Pretty much. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
We didn't have digital back then.
Okay, so were you like me? Was this your introduction to Lords of the Rings?
No.
Because for me, I knew of Lords of the Rings, but I had not read anything previously before I saw the movies.
Now, I grew up as a kid, the video store in Lepanto, and Tim's in the chat. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they had one of the animated movies on videotape at the library. I watched the Hobbit and the first Lord of the Rings cartoons, and only here recently I looked on Max and realized they made other cartoons to go with them. So I'm going to have to go back and watch all those. And then in junior high, I read the Hobbit, I read and the Fellowship, and wasn't required to. I just read them, but I retained none of the knowledge. Only thing I realized was I was too damn dumb. I mean, it's a,
No, I can get that. It's a lot to retain.
You read it when you're 13. My mind was just.
It's humbling. It's humbling text now. Like, try to read the Silmarillion, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, let it be known that even though it comes off as like young adult, it is by far like, high class reading level. I would say not so much The Hobbit, but
Hobbit is the one children's book.
Right, but Lords of the Rings and then I can't even say it, Silmarillion. Yeah, that's where, and it's kind of funny because each one kind of progresses in skill level, because you kind of have to be a real pro once you get into the sills, because it's not such a straightforward tale kind of thing.
It's for the diehards for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sorry, Carolyn. Go ahead.
No, man, please.
No, I was just going to say, growing up, like I said, I read those little bits, and then I used to make jokes with my brother Jeremy that I said I feel like I have to have a college education to understand it, and that's not a dig. That's not a dig on it because
No,
I've always told him I'm going to go back to him. I'm going to go back to him. So hopefully this year I'm going to pick them up and start reading them
And
because
part of
tell him.
the I would say part of the reason is like J.R.R. Tolkien. His day job was not an author. His day job was a college professor, and he was a philologist, which is a study of languages. And he fell in love with different languages, how they were created, and really got into ancient texts and mythology and sagas and whatnot.
Folklore.
Yeah, and he said that the first time he had ever read a fairy tale as a young boy, he loved it and wanted to create his own. And so, really, the worlds that he created were more of a medium for him to insert all of these fun languages that he got to spend his time creating in between grading very boring and mediocre essay responses from students, in his classes. So, and I think a lot of professors were really jealous of him because they saw him as kind of dicking around and not really doing his job and being the most devoted. He was just off writing his fairy tales as stupid books that they thought were idiotic, and then they ended up being like mass bestsellers, and they were kind of butthurt and resented him for that. So
Yeah, he was highly criticized at that time, especially when they saw what most of his time was focused on. But you're talking about in literary history, he was one of the first people to actually translate Beowulf, like
yeah, I was
a
just going to bring
big,
that up.
a big thing. I mean, you're talking about like
Hmm.
before he even got to
he's the reason
writing.
why we read that in schools.
Yes,
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
even before he was doing, Lords of the Rings and all this, when he was a professor, and he was breaking down. I mean, you're talking about
Eddas
fairy
and
tales.
sagas from like
Yeah,
Norse mythology and Germanic mythology, Swedish mythology, things like that. And from those stories, he
Mhm.
took bits and pieces that really inspired him and wove them into what he wanted to define as the English or the Great British Saga, because he
Mhm.
saw that there really wasn't one, except he found that Anglo-Saxon text of Beowulf.
Yep.
And he rediscovered and said, whoa, this is really early English mythology. And we need to be teaching this to people, young kids in Britain, because this shows we do have those tales. And so, him stressing the importance of that is how Beowulf got reintegrated or first integrated into our education system.
Mhm.
He brought that to light.
And speaking on this is actually how all of his books that are in Middle Earth are structured, because they're supposed to be folklore that's leading into present day. He's supposed to be telling you like how Britain came to be and all this, and yes, it's through many ages, just like we know civilization was for us. So I mean, the Hobbit is during a time, and Lords of the Rings is during another time, and you're talking about I mean, comparably, we're looking at like the Greeks versus like the Egyptians or something like that in scale of civilization.
And like he emphasizes the fact that at the very beginning of time, all magic existed. And as you move towards the present, magic ceases to be. And
Kind of
so
fades away.
it
That's pretty neat.
fades. It fades. And so, as you see at the very end of The Lord of the Rings, as they're exiting the third age into the fourth, there is no real magic left because the elves have left. And there are only memories and tales now that are on Middle Earth, and whispers and hints of Sauron, but, and it's
It's
kind of bittersweet.
And it's also an explanation on the tales that he gave us. You know, Lords of the Rings is a pretty complete tale. The Hobbit is a pretty complete tale. And you get to some of the other ones and they're bits and pieces. And how this is explained is he's translating text that he found. He didn't create this. He didn't, you know, technically if you're in the world of this, he discovered like in some cave or fell down a hole or magically in the middle of night, you know, like that this was magically, you know, entered into his brain. I don't know the story on that. Okay, but it's supposed to be perceived that he is translating this from stuff that already existed. He's retelling the story, you know, so we can understand it. So that technically that plays a part into how it all fits in, you know, like no, I love the whole concept of the way he integrated it. I mean, you're talking about some of the known things that Tolkien is known for, like character building, world building, you know, language building, because this man invented languages within the books. The elfin language is a real language that you can learn.
Sindarin, there's
Mhm.
there's an original, there's different types of, like, there's wood elves, there's different no Noldor, the Noldor language. What did they speak? Oh, Noldor spoke what language? Quenya. So there's Sindarin and Quenya, and like there's all these iterations. So like even different elven groups like have their own like languages, and the dwarves have their own languages, and he makes these different peoples and their different languages like certain like are more Jewish based or like Arabic roots. He associated to like the dwarvish languages, and then like more Norse or Swedish were based on the like the Elvish languages, and then the human languages were like Saxon based, I think, you know, just like, and so he really got
They were.
into it and got super meta with it, like yeah.
What about black speech?
Uh,
Is that isn't that its own language, or is that like a just
yeah,
a version of
so
Elven?
there's
It
like
is,
the
but I don't know if it's complete kind of thing. Like I don't know if there's because some of the languages you only get bits and pieces of. Like I don't know if correct me if I'm wrong,
I don't know if there's like a specific tongue of Mordor or
but you
whatever.
are but you are right with the black speech and well
Um,
it would be like the
That's
tongue
my
of
favorite.
Mordor, I guess.
Sauron would know. Sauron, in my opinion, would speak in Quenya because he was an original Maiar first. He's like a fallen angel. But I don't. Let me get. What did um
Well, we do know he was a man of deception, and he was able to talk to the three main. So I mean, he was able to talk Elvish,
yeah, but I
Dwarvish.
think yeah, it's so black speech. It's okay. So it's black speech existed in two forms: the pure form used by Sauron, the Nazgul and the Olagai, and the more debased form used by Baradur's soldiery. Okay, he constructed black speech to be rough and harsh, to sound plausible linguistically. And it says some believe that Tolkien based the black speech on ancient Hurrian language. I'm not sure. Interesting. That's cool. See, it's like all this stuff. It's like that's the thing. Whenever I go and try to read, you just learn something new every time because it's so expansive and there's
I
so
think it plays to the part that not everything was complete due to, you know, the term of his life kind of thing. So, I
but
mean,
also,
because that's like the Sill, you know, the Sill is, you know, well, I mean, the Sill was never complete the way they found it, you know, the way it was, you know, that they took stories and kind of pieced together the more complete ones to make up the Sill kind of thing. So I want to assume that he probably planned to finish every language that he started with, like the black speech. I'm pretty sure, like, if he would have been alive longer, you know, we might have got like a full, like, you know, language etiquette on.
I don't think he would have ever stopped adding. That's the thing.
No,
I don't think he would have ever stopped. He to the day he died, he was working and making edits and doing things like. He in like the Silmarillion again, like that was put out posthumously by his son Christopher Tolkien, and he has basically assimilated all of these origin stories that his dad had told him and that had existed but had never been put out. That really forms the basis. If you didn't know how Middle Earth came to be and all the acting deities and players in this game, on a magic level, Silmarillion lines that out. Yeah. So,
Wow.
but Peter Jackson grew up a massive Tolkien fan and grew up influenced by those same movies that you saw in the 70s, those cartoon movies. And then if you guys don't know, the BBC in the 80s put out an amazing radio dramatic reading of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, dramatization.
Yeah, and if you guys see, if you've seen those as fans of Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, and then watch Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, he integrates that stuff.
Yeah, you can see where he pulled.
Yeah, he pays homage to the good, the great stuff that was from it, even down to like that Hobbit cartoon and Elrond, the cartoon elf. They cast Hugo Weaving to look. He looks like the cartoon.
Yeah, he does. Now you can actually, going back to the, and it's on Max right now, streaming the Lords of the Rings, movie that they did back in the 70s, because it's not full animation, but even that you can see where Peter Jackson specifically just derive scenes from that, like the Shire. The Shire scene is almost beat for beat, and that's not the way it reads in the book. So I mean, he could have played, that could have played way differently.
Visual elements. He definitely took lots of different visual, and like Howard Shore incorporated like the score. So like there was music to that 1980s dramatic reading, and Howard Shore integrated parts from that into the official Lord of the Rings score. And if you hear it, it just makes you want to cry, because it's like, that man watched the same things we did and found magical same things that we found magical. And he is really trying to do Tolkien the best he can. And I mean, you can't do the same things or build the same dimensions with one medium versus the other, but he tried his damnedest,
Hey, JSS. No, but okay, so let's go back to the movies, because we got way outbeat. But so I can remember specifically I saw Lord of the Rings. I was excited to see it in the movie, and this goes off of like Sin City and a couple other movies, because I was Elijah Wood super fan at that time. Like everything that he was in at that time was really, really good. So I want to say I was just really excited to see this movie, and I did not know the content. I knew the elements and stuff like that. I knew that it was fantasy and stuff like that. I didn't know the story, but no, but that one movie kind of, I mean, it sucked me in. I wanted so much more. You're talking about it, just waiting for the second movie to find out what happened. And I waited until I watched all three before I went back and read the books and did all that. The Hobbit I did differently. The Hobbit I read before I saw it. But no, Lord of the Rings. And I want to say, you're talking about how well adapted, and yes, you could say there's stuff missing, but how well adapted the book is to the silver screen that Peter Jackson did.
Yeah. So did Jeremy, did you see all of the movies in the theater when they first dropped?
Yeah, that's how I was introduced to it. I've like Evil Mike, I've heard about them, but I knew they were fantasy. Saw them coming out in the movie or in the theater, and decided to watch them, and thought they were pretty awesome.
They knock your socks off?
Yeah.
They did mine.
Did you do the kind of, here's the test, it makes dudes cry? Did you tear
up?
Yeah,
it got me crying. I wouldn't say, I don't know about the Fellowship. I know what the Fellowship did for me. That a lot of fans like skip over. It had great horror elements. like in the Fellowship.
Shire, yes, the
Yeah.
ring.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Like
was
that one scene where they're hiding. That's one of my favorite scenes, just because of the tension that's built
stabbing
up. That
pillows. Yeah,
and like how real they got it to be. Where it's like you're in the, you're feeling what Frodo and them feel. No, I love it.
shrieks. Just the shrieks.
Hmm.
I remember.
Yes, it is.
So maybe I was a bad sister. I don't know, but I think I was probably 16, 17 when they dropped, because they came out in 2016 and 2001. I would have been 17. So that means my sister would have been like, oh my gosh, 8, 9. Oh my God. I brought my sister along. She's like 8 years younger than me. And the thing with the Fellowship of the Rings is that the ring wraiths really scared her. She
Yeah, I
was
was about to say
and I like
They are
hugged
pretty
her and I'll be
scary.
like, "You'll be all right in it. It's not real, This is just oh
fantasy. Yeah, I
man."
was 21 when it came out.
What
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what's funny is I'm gonna go mention Harry Potter for a minute, because the first time I seen the Dementors on screen, I was like, they're freaking rip-offs of the ring race.
I actually like both concepts, and they are different. Okay, they're different,
I know, but I'm just talking about
even
the
though
look.
they do look similar. No, but no, I'll have to agree that it's kind of a straight rip off, like, because that's another case in point. The Dementors could have looked different because they don't exactly look like that in the book. Hey, Rich.
Yeah. So like as a kid, my dad introduced me to The Hobbit because he liked it as a kid. I think there was a resurgence of Tolkien in the 70s, and my dad was a teen in the 70s. And so it was something he was really into. And he introduced it to me as a kid. He got the cassette audio tapes for The Hobbit, and like he would play it and we would listen to it, and he would like explain certain parts that I couldn't quite understand, or we'd go into and I was in love with it, dude. And then as I got older, Lord of the Ring came along, and I read it when I was, in my earlier teens. And so when I found out they were making a movie or a trilogy, whatever, I didn't know who Peter Jackson was. I heard the name Peter Jackson. I was like, who is that? So after that, I went and like looked up different movies, and then I watched Heavenly Creatures, and I was like, he might be good. He might be pretty good.
See, I knew him
Because,
from The Frighteners with Michael J.
yeah,
Fox.
if you haven't seen Heavenly Creatures, it's based on a true
Yeah.
story, and it is really fucked up. But
I like
It
how you
is.
did the King Kong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one, but I heard it was my brother really liked it. My brother's in that stuff. That's not my thing. I'm not into like big monkeys and stuff.
Okay, so side note,
Lizards,
and
like
maybe
Godzilla.
they're just okay. So first off, Frighteners. If you have not seen Frighteners with Michael J. Fox and Gary Busey, like no, I think it's Jake Busey, Gary Busey's son.
Mhm.
That movie is fantastic. Frighteners
Yeah.
is
But
like
is it rated R? Is it like a horror movie?
it's I think PG-13. It was because I saw it when it dropped as a
It's
teen.
fair.
Because Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future. Come on, another
Yeah.
person I followed. Okay, Frighteners was kind of like a Ghostbusters sell-off, and it starts
Mhm.
off with a Ghostbustery type of gimmick, but
Okay.
halfway through the film, it kind of turns into a Scream, like where
Okay.
it's a slasher flick, but the twist is the slasher is a ghost, like.
Oh,
It's not, yeah. So I mean, no,
interesting.
the Frighteners is a great film. So I mean, that's where I knew Peter Jackson from before
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
For me, I didn't know who he was from Adam, and so then I looked and I watched Heavenly Creatures, and it to be honest, like blew my mind. Kate Winslet's in it. A very young Kate Winslet is in it
Mhm.
before she got popular. But yeah,
I'll have to look that up.
it just really messed up.
A bunch of his early movies. He's got one that's
Well,
really early,
it's
and I'm
based on a
drawing.
true story too. That's a thing.
Well, I think it's his first movie, and it's a horror one. I'm drawing a blank at the name, but it's so odd, and it's done with puppets. And when you see it, it looks very friendly. And this movie is like rated R, and it's extreme, like body horror type of thing. I can't. It's called like Meet the Grommets or something. Meet the
Yeah.
Feeble. Maybe it's Meet the Feebles. Maybe it's Meet the. Even the name has like a very kid friendly, and it was done in the '80s when they were doing like, the Garbage Pail Kid movie and stuff like that. And okay, this is extreme horror, and that was like one of Peter Jackson.
Meet the Feebles, yeah. Just
That one I don't. It's weird.
Oh,
Yeah,
dang, he did Lovely Bones. I didn't even know that.
Oh, that's such a great movie. If you have not seen that, that is a really
Yeah.
good movie.
going back to what y'all was talking about the ring race and when they showed up at the Shire, I
Mhm.
remember the first. I was a grown ass man when the Hobbit come out. Had one daughter already, and when I watched like that scene, okay, the very first scene, very first ring race you see in the Shire, he stops and just looks at that little Hobbit and just says,
Baggins.
Baggins.
Yeah,
And
yeah, Baggins.
that little Hobbit would have been me if I was looking up. I'd have been pissing my pants. I mean,
Now, are you talking about the ones that came out like in the late 70s? That
no,
one?
I'm talking about the Peter Jackson one.
2000s one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Baggins.
God. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was trying to
See-
remember, 'cause I watched the behind the scenes stuff about where they got the voices for like the ring race and everything, and it was
Mhm.
unique. And I wish I could remember it. My mind is.
I identify most like if we're going to talk about like low key side characters that you identify with. Definitely like when Gandalf and Frodo are going to the Shire riding on the little cart,
Yeah.
and the grumpy man, he like waves at him, and then the wife looks at him, and then he makes the mean face.
Yeah.
He's my favorite. I love that guy.
I was so happy to see him at the end when they go back to the Shire. I was like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, he's happy. Proud foot, proud feet.
And you talk about like people complaining about how long the Lords of the Rings movie are to begin
I
with,
need more. I'm on more.
and then yeah, me too. But then you have the extended. But what they really don't talk about is each one of those has an appendix of like behind the scenes, and you're talking about. I think each one of those is like 6 to 9 hours. Don't quote me, but it's a lot. And I've gone through and watched all that on all three movies because it's all interesting stuff. Like, I mean, and I think like if I remember right, they go into like it branches off. It gives you the choice whether you want to go look at costumes, sets, like actors stuff. No, I love the way they did the behind the scenes
I
for.
think the biggest disservice done was they cut Christopher Lee out of the second and third ones. And
Oh,
that
God.
dude was a treasure. Like, the man was brilliant. Every scene he did was great.
Pissed him off too.
Dude. But then the thing is that he got back. Peter Jackson got back on Christopher Lee's good side when he was like, "We need you back on the Hobbit trilogy. Come on, Saruman, we're gonna need you." And so he was. Christopher Lee was happy to do that, and then so he wasn't pissed at him anymore after that. But yeah, he was pissed for a hot minute. He was very
And
pissed.
they got his approval to be in the War of the Rohirrim too.
Rohirrim. Oh, Christopher Lee, they got his approval. Was it a project before he died? Because he's been dead for a couple years, I know.
No, they use like previous lines.
Yeah. So just stuff from the, like cut scenes and whatever.
That's the animated movie. So it's just like they just
Or
use
the
that line.
Rohirrim.
I've been meaning to watch that.
It was good.
I haven't seen that.
It was good. It's it's lore heavy as far as like the time it takes place, but it's unlike every other Lords of the Rings thing you've seen, like media wise, because there's no magic, it's pretty much just
Straight
swords and
Helm's Deep
shields.
battle. Yeah, it's like the Rohirrim going buck wild.
It's pretty much just the origin story of Helm's Deep and what it represents, like why it was such a major, why that forest was such a major force, why but it's really the message of the movie was kind of just the placement of Helm's Deep and the origin.
And why was so important to the Rohirrim and the guy who founded it, the Hammerhead.
Arama.
Yeah.
He was dope. He was dope in the movie. I can say some of them. He kind of, because he's not the main star. It's really his daughter and the other guy, Wolf, the bad guy of the movie. But really, it's like he's kind of the star of the movie because he's just so dope. I mean, you're talking about his spoiler warning. He dies. I mean, this is, all these people are dead. It's in the past. And no, but when he goes out, man, it's freaking epic. Like especially in animated form, and that's hard to do. And okay, this is something that's not known. It in the trailers, it is shown to be full on Japanese animation. That's the way it looks. It is not. It's they use that for like traditional action scenes and stuff, which they show predominantly in the trailer. It's a mix of like American animation and
Mixed
Japanese
media.
anime.
Yeah.
It's really,
Oh.
I mean, you're talking about the details and the landscapes. It's actually one of those pictures where it's almost like Studio Ghibli. It's hard to tell if it's live action or animated. It's so like, I mean, you could see pencil lines that are so detailed. It was cool.
I didn't even know it had like Japanese animation mixed into it.
What? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It was actually like part of the deal they did with the animation crew.
Yeah, it is very much got a Japanese flavor to it in
It
terms
does.
of
It
the
does.
style.
Like the look of the characters, that kind of thing. I want to say that the design of everything still has a Peter Jackson Lords of the Rings look to it. It's still adjacent to those movies.
Did Howard Shore do the score?
I don't think so. I think it's like a different composer, and I want to say there are bits and pieces of it woven in, just like they did with Rings of Power. And
Did Andy Serkis play like a producer directorial role?
ooh, that I don't know. I don't know.
Because
I
I
don't
know
remember looking at the.
he got really good during Lord of the Rings. He learned so much that like when The Hobbit got greenlit, Peter Jackson's like, yeah, sure, I'll be the producer, but Andy Serkis, you and some other people go and like actually make it. And so
Yeah,
Andy Serkis really got directing chops from doing that. Now, did that need to be 3 movies? No. And were they the strongest plot? No.
I
But
love them. They're good.
yeah, I'll still watch them. I still have all the extended editions to all of them.
No, but he did gain like high sorority within the franchise company because I mean he started voicing all the audiobooks. Like he started, I mean I want to say
He
maybe
is
not
that
official.
franchise as Gollum.
Yeah, I mean he's about to be directing the new movie with Peter Jackson together. So I mean, and it was set with them like I mean it's kind of like vice president and president kind of thing.
guys, I want to mention something real quick before I forget. Y'all was talking about Studio Ghibli.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all probably know all this already, but for anybody watching that might not know this, because I found this interesting. The original Hobbit animated film, it says The Hobbit was animated by Topcraft in Tokyo, a now defunct Japanese animation studio whose animation team reformed as Studio Ghibli under Hayao Miyazaki. Some of the animators went on to establish Pacific Animation Corporation. I
That
just
is
thought that was
correct.
interesting.
Interesting.
I thought it was interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And like Bakshi Ralph Bakshi
Mhm.
directed like
The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he did the silk screen like method, which makes it look like you use real humans, but then you put like animation cells over that. It's wild. But then they didn't have enough money, and so like half of it is that and the other half is like
Yeah,
so it's really kind of ghetto, but
it's jarring, I can say.
yeah. And then I think Rankin Bass actually produced the Hobbit cartoon.
Yes, he did.
But it's got what do you call it? Japanese style animation though.
Big at that time.
I was gonna say back when I was a kid, I just referred to it as Japanimation.
Yeah, basically.
Come on, Tony.
Anime.
Well, hey, yeah, but in my time, all of us referred to it as that back then.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
still kind of accurate. I mean, yes, we do have animation from other parts of the world, but it's still predominantly Japan. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can still get away with it for a little while.
yeah, for now.
So I'll say, if you guys were talking about are there any tear jerkers, and you said you didn't really know if there's one in Fellowship. All right.
Oh God, I could go.
Yeah, when Boromir's like, they took the little ones, and then he goes and like defends them, and he gets like umpteen arrows in him. That made me cry. They took the little ones. He protects them in the end.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
He
I was gonna say
redeems
that-
himself.
I was gonna say the part that Carolyn was talking about, where he's going throughout the whole movie, going, Gondor has no king, Gondor needs no king, and then when he dies, he's going, my king, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good point.
He
Good.
acknowledged it. He acknowledged it. Yeah.
Okay, so if I had to go back to the first movie and say a moment that almost got me there, because the other two movies definitely have them. The first movie for me, especially not knowing the story and stuff, like, was the death of Gandalf. Now, what kept it away from like becoming that teary moment was like, I mean, they left it unclear on purpose, kind of thing. But me not knowing the fate of him, I mean, that was all brand new. So I mean, that kind of stung. I can say it, and, especially the way it went down. But even though it was epic and everything, I was like, I mean, he was there for like a second. We already lost the damn wizard. What the hell?
Felt like it lost its momentum, therefore.
And
I
I was
felt
gonna
like sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm not going by what you're saying too, because I'd only read The Fellowship when I was a little kid. So when I watched them, I went, wait a minute. Everything I've read about has been based around Gandalf, Gandalf, Gandalf. We just lost him. And then the Two Towers come out.
Deuces out.
But that was a little jarring as because I know me and my brother were both, I mean, we watched it as it came out. We both went to the theaters and at the time he was really living with me. So I can remember there was a lot of talk because we didn't quite understand what they were trying to portray with Gandalf. Like he had been resurrected as the White and everything. We were like, so did he? That for us as new viewers, that really hadn't set in that it was like this whole Jesus kind of metaphor thing in the background, like he was being resurrected. And I didn't quite understand that, but I thought it was cool at the same time. But that was a little jarring too.
His entrance into I'm sorry. Yeah, his entrance into the Two Towers was
With the
pretty badass.
trees, yeah.
I definitely teared up too when like in the Fellowship when Frodo's on the boat and then like Samwise is like, I'm coming with you, and like he was like, Gandalf said he said, don't you leave him, Samwise, and I mean not to, and he was like tearing up, and I was like,
Now going back on the rewatch with Fellowship, I'm pretty sure there would be like those moments, but like I can't remember them off the bat.
Oh, there's
The
there's lots of tears and
Two Towers and Return of the King. Yeah, there's definitely moments.
Return of the King.
One of the coolest things that I saw was the Saruman Gandalf fight when Saruman was like spinning him around and stuff, and you're just like, oh shit! It was like one of the most intense scenes I had seen in cinema. Well, that was alliterative, but like it was really, it really blew my mind, man. It was cool.
Now we're going to the Two Towers, the most cinematic. I can remember, I love this scene, and there's not a lot to it, but it's just that scene when Gandalf has already been captured, and he's on the top, and he has the moth, and he gets the moth, and you follow the moth, and I mean, we're talking about this is before drones. They did that with planes, and I mean, that just cinematography wise, it was fantastic because not only, I mean, it's a CGI moth at first, but as they followed it, they actually used a real moth and real footage of how it would have been flying. No, it was, I mean, you're talking about like the whole Isengard scene in general, when you're first introduced into Isengard, and this was one of the cooler things from the behind the scenes is how he filmed that and and got to sound like there was like these millions of Urukai there. That was all done in a real stadium with real people that did
Yeah.
that whole like weird language, the black speech or
Whoa,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
and they were
like,
given those lines, like, and he actually recorded that live, like, I mean, that's
the last March of the Ents war scene where they go in and destroy the Urukai at what do they call it? Is it Barad-dûr? Or Orthanc. The
yeah,
Orthanc.
or think.
Yeah. That was, I got teary-eyed then too, because it's just like I love the Ents.
Yeah.
And it just made me really happy to see them just like taking out orcs.
Get some good side for him, after all the hard.
Yeah, I was going to point out when Caroline mentioned the Ents, that heartbreaking scene where Treebeard realizes that Saruman wasn't their friend, and seeing what happened to all the trees.
These friends, I've raised them since I was seedlings. I've known them since they were roots. And he just like, and he does that war cry, but it was like of pain, and like his buddies start coming, and it's just like he's been betrayed. Like,
go kick some ass.
they were his children, basically. He'd looked after. He was the tender, the protector.
Yeah. And he brought them there too.
Yeah.
You're talking about, it wasn't just like a father, I mean, he actually, brought that whole grove there, like from another, convinced the elders to move there to begin with,
And the thing, like, the whole thing with the Tolkien, and the theme of his underlying theme is in this story is that the natural order of things is the right order of things.
Yeah.
And to disrupt nature is to do wrong, and evil and the will to dominate and overpower is unnatural. And like, industrialization and utilizing the machine and the so he saw the orcs, and what Saruman did was basically industrialize like the forest, and it broke Gandalf's heart. And C.S. Lewis, like, he lived in the countryside in England and saw that same thing. And he was always like, I love the trees. I wonder who would speak for them. Who speaks for the trees? And so that's how he incorporates, because he said something, I should love to hear the stories that some of these trees that I sit under would have, I would just love to. And so he like created the characters because he was a lover of nature, and it broke his heart to see that disrupted.
Yeah.
It's actually one of my favorite parts of the film is when we get the origins of how the Ents came to be with the gods, basically. And, at that time, like, the dwarves had already been created in secret, man and elves were already, that they were already set upon the earth at a certain time, and she was like, hey, I want something of my own, I mean, something that touches base with nature and can speak for
Yavanna.
nature.
Yeah, Yavanna was a Valar. And so
I'm not going to try and remember any of them.
But like, yeah,
That's what I got you here for.
I'm pretty sure she was the one.
No, I'm pretty sure you're right. I don't remember any of the Valar name except for Morgoth, and I don't even remember the one that like he was afraid of, and he's supposed to be the cooler. I without cheating and going to look them up because I got it.
Something like that.
Yeah, well, Manwë was like
Manwë's the main.
He was like the chief or the lead of the gods, like just below Eru, Iluvatar. So Iluvatar was like God, and then I guess like maybe like Michael or Saint Peter, like the number one archangel or whatever. That's kind of like what Manwë was. And then like the eagles were his, and the eagles were like his basically sentinels that monitor what's happening on Middle Earth, and they like let him know like if some effed up shit's happening. And so that's how Manwë interjects and helps steer the course if he needs to, which he doesn't really like to, but it's through the eagles. Like, Oh,
I
dude,
actually love.
it's so
I,
nerdy.
I
So nerdy.
I love the actual creation of. I mean, you're talking about. He got so detailed that he goes back all the way to the beginning of the sun and the moon and the planet and before the
Singing matter
planet.
into creation. He
Yeah,
Yeah,
sings
and the
that's
stuff
music.
into creation. Yeah.
yes, and that concept for me, I mean, there's tons of concept of how of creation came to be. No, you're talking about not only was it a first, but not only that, but it works on so many levels. Like each god having their different, places in the song. Melkor getting all mad and trying to interject when he could. Kind of, you're talking about one of the greatest creation concepts I've ever come across, and you're talking about even past like Greek mythology and their whole like, well, the gods do, the sun moves this way because the gods pulling it. No, I
So
mean,
that first chapter, the creation chapter, it's called the Ainu Lindale. And
yeah,
like basically that's the Ainur and that's singing into it. So the singing into creation of the Ainur, Ainu Lindale. Like that's what the name is. That is I said C.S. Lewis, didn't I? I meant J.R.R. Tolkien, but they're buddies. I'm such an idiot.
they're buddies. I
Yeah,
knew
my
what you
bad.
meant.
Okay, we knew
I
what you
meant
meant.
Tolkien. But like Tolkien, he created that name. Everything has an intention behind it, and he's so smart. And it's like, dude, he's like so meta next level.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of this he did like also because he had a lot of kids, and they would always come to him, and he would create these stories, and it kept them entertained, and he would paint pictures that went along with it that would help entertain and stimulate their like imaginations. And so he did create this world, and it was for sharing with the children that were his and part of the communities, and they loved it. And so it was really cool. He did it for his kids. It was a labor of love.
I mean, this is before TV, before internet. I mean, he had to keep these kids busy. You know what I'm saying? What better way to, you know? Hey, listen to this story. Gather around.
Yeah. But he would also do things like there's a collection of it's published, but for each of his kids, he would have like a letter for them during the like Christmas. It would be like from Polar Bear, and Polar Bear would be Santa's helper, and Polar Bear would send a letter every year and say, Father Christmas has been doing this, and Polar Bear, I've been really naughty this year, and I tried to help, but I ended up stumbling down the stairs with parcels, but creating all these elaborate stories for each of one of his kids to read. And so it's like he was just like a really good pops. But I think a lot of that came from like he was really in touch with like I think his mortality and his feelings, and part of that was his experience in World War One and fighting with C.S. Lewis, who was his best buddy, but they both fought in World War One. He was in the Battle of the Somme, I think,
Yeah.
Somme. Tolkien was,
He
and
was.
so it was intense. The dude saw stuff, and he says that he doesn't base none of Lord of the Rings is allegory, but he can't help but make it that way, because if you see some of those battle scenes and see the way the camaraderie is between like Legolas and Gimli, or
Yeah.
when they mourn the losses of their brother, he's experienced that, because that you can tell that man knows what real loss was, because he clearly, and even if he didn't intend it to bleed over into his writing, well, it did. It just did, because he knew what it was like to lose.
Another thing is having a firm grasp on the politics of war, and that plays into the literature. The way it's read. I mean, you have to imagine that every writer that comes across writing fantasy can want to do a war scene or something like that, but unless you actually know the actual physics that go into the breakdown of what happens during a war, it sounds one-sided. I mean, you're talking about a Tolkien and all of Tolkien's war scenes. I mean, you're getting soldier, you're getting lieutenant, you're getting different statures, different sides, why
And
they're
it
doing it.
scars generations, and you can see that in the people, like, and you can see that the things that Tolkien despised was domination of one tyrant over all, and the things that he loved were counsel. And you see that through like Elrond, and what was he idealized, I guess, behavior through the elves. And so what Elrond did is he had he had all the different representations of people to reason and create the best idea. Whereas like, the other one is like dominant. So it's just interesting ways to look at what Tolkien valued and what he saw as detrimental. But I love it. I love it all.
I've learned a lot.
Well, I had to look up something because I just thought of it, and I was going to ask y'all, but I had to Google it. But has there ever been any Lord of the Rings comic books?
Yes.
And I said what I found was mostly it was in Italy, and
Epic did one. It's
Yeah.
Epic did do one. Okay, I didn't
it's
know.
not Lord of the Rings. It's Hobbit. It's the Hobbit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me type it in. Hold on.
Because that's like, I mean, they've done video games, they've done, franchise-wise, I don't think there's.
It's not Epic. I meant Eclipse. It's Eclipse. My bad.
I knew they had done video games, especially after the Peter Jackson movies, but they did them before.
Even way before, yeah. NES, Super Nintendo, then you're talking about pre-Nintendo on Commodore.
I'm posting this in the private chat, Tony. But if you post that link,
if I what?
Check the private chat.
Okay, I see that. Just click on the link.
Yeah, you click on the link. You can share it too if you want, or like copy and post it into the chat, meaning people can access it. But basically, that's that is the Eclipse trilogy of the Hobbit. I'm still looking for number 2. I have 1 and 3. But yeah,
I need to give y'all some wrenches.
Wrench it up. You need to wrench yourself.
I don't know how to do that.
You have to be in your channel.
It's through YouTube. Yeah.
You just go through like for instance now, if you can go through on your phone, go to YouTube, go to this live stream, and anybody that's in there, you just click on their name, and you can make them moderator. But you have to do it like I can't do it because I'm on my phone, so I can't be here through StreamYard and be active on. Gotcha. You gotta have 2.
Yeah, you gotta basically have another window open, signed in as you.
No, but as far as I want to say, Lords of the Rings is a lot like Star Trek and Star Wars, and in some ways, like merchandise wise, they're pretty much everything you can think of, you can find. Like, I mean, if you wanted some Lords of the Rings party cups, you could find those. Like, some Lords of the Rings toilet paper. But they have had multiple versions of trading cards, like they got
it in Magic the Gathering now, dude.
Mm-hmm. So, like toys, and they just dropped the new sets and both Lords of the Rings and tie-ins to the new movie.
There's all kinds. You can get set replicas like of the swords and like the rings and stuff. There's so many cool things. Oh yeah,
I think I want a sword.
Yeah,
they have high value ones. They have usually most comic shops, and every comic shop is a little different, but most like kind of decent sized comic shops that I've been to, they usually have like swords on a wall that you can buy, and they usually have like links, like Master Sword. They usually have like they'll have like the popular kind of pop culture swords, but they usually do have a couple different like Lords of the Rings swords you can buy, and they're usually, I want to say, if I had like 50 to 100.
But basically, it's Lord of the Rings. So if you guys have you heard of Weta Workshop?
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't.
They are an artistic group. Shit, that's not how you spell workshop. But they basically did all the prop stuff for Lord of the Rings. They're from New Zealand. And so what I'm posting here, oh crap, it's not going to show. Oh, it did show. No, that's not it. Let me copy this. It's Weta, New Zealand. Boop, boop.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, Caroline, I officially gave you a blue wrench.
Thank you. So
Mhm.
that Weta Workshop one that I just posted, that has official Lord of the Rings
Ooh, prop
props.
replicas.
Replicas.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
props.
looking at
Ooh,
that.
now
Weta
that's see.
Workshop makes really, it's like nice high end stuff.
Yeah, I have seen. I've seen their helmets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Now,
you get everything.
yeah, you're talking about the stuff that I was talking about. The con. That's not. I mean, that's not exactly like high end replica. It's replica, but not exactly high end. It's not. I mean, it looks good on a wall, but no, this is a different class. Like, I want to say they have that and everything too, because Harry Potter wands are like that, and Star Wars lightsabers.
Yeah. Definitely the Lord of the Rings stuff is always so cool to me. I love that stuff.
They can just take my wallet.
Right, just take my money. Go ahead and take my damn money. Like there's a prancing pony magnet. Like, do I need that? No. Do I want that? Yes.
Yes.
Hey, that's a
Yes.
good. Yeah, that's a good decorative piece.
Hey,
Right.
I'd actually like to have one of those long pipes that they use to smoke the weed. The pipe
The long bottom leaf. You mean?
Have you
Yeah.
done that
the long
challenge?
bottle.
Like, have you
No,
watched Fellowship of the Ring and smoked every time they smoke?
no. I actually didn't know
I
that
didn't know
was
that
a
was a
challenge.
challenge. Yeah,
Anytime you see a pipe, you
It's
smoke.
a fun challenge, and I promise you, most
It's a
people
nice
can't.
pace. It keeps you well paced.
Oh, you get effed up. Most people can't do it. Like,
I was
because
gonna say,
Gandalf be hitting, he'd be hitting that stuff. It's and they cut, and it's not continual. He actually keeps
Saruman.
loading it.
Saruman says to Gandalf, "Your love of the halflings leaf
Yeah,
has clearly clouded your judgment."
yeah. Tobacco don't cloud no judgment. You know what I'm saying?
well, I haven't heard that before, but I'll probably try it now.
That's fun. It only works for the Fellowship. That's when they do all the smoking in the beginning. I mean, you don't have to worry about it the whole movie because they
Well,
just
I may get them wrong, but there's like what is it? There's like one scene, and it's either Two Towers or Return, where Pip gives Merrin or Merrin gives Pip some of it. Says, "Here, you take this. You smoke more than I do," or something
Yeah,
like.
yep, yep. It's the last bit of the long bottom leaf.
yeah, the long
Yeah.
bottom leaf. I
You don't. You snort them. Yeah, exactly.
think it's Fellowship.
Let, let me
Hmm.
let me ask you a question as far as the films. Was there any? Let's see how I can name this. Any special effects moments or monumental moments that just made you stop and go, "Wow, that shit looked cool." And I'm going to bring up one that I love, for example, and Jeremy's going to know where I'm going with this. The first time I seen the statues of the two kings doing this,
Mm.
and I was like, "Holy shit, that is awesome!"
By the way,
Oh yeah, since I'm missing it. Hold on. Whoa, hold on, Jeremy. Hold on. Since you're gonna
He
show
gonna
some
make
stuff
you. He
off,
gonna make you big.
I'm gonna make you big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so dope.
The
Okay,
two.
so now I can say for me at that time, that wasn't so much a skeptical. It's still cool to see, but I mean, for me, I had Lost, and Lost had just did that with the big statues and stuff. And, okay, what got me, like, if you had to say special effects, was what was, you know, the Balrog stuff you're talking about, and then what's is it Khazad-dûm where they're at? The
yeah,
whole Khazad-dûm thing. You're talking about how it's set up, like set wise and everything, and how it begins with the drums, and I mean that the whole setup of shadow play, and but even before they get to the doors, because you get to see the massive hallway and stuff, and most of that is done with CGI and real set. But you're talking about how well, like most people don't even realize that's CGI, through all that Khazad-dûm stuff because I mean they blended it in so well. But I want to say that for me because that's really the first time you get to. I mean, besides the ring race following, the Baggins at that time, like that's really the first time in the movie where you get to see a lot of the effects. You get to see Legolas in action, him climbing the cave troll, like the cave troll scene. I have to go back and look, but I want to say he actually CGI wise looks decent, kind of thing. Nah, but the Balrog scene, just the fire,
you
the
shall not
whip.
pass.
the detail and how much you can see, and like you can actually see that he's got horns and carrying a sword and a whip, and I mean, because you're talking about at that time. I mean, look at the ending of Black Panther or the ending of the first Venom, and you're talking about those fight scenes are done and nothing. It's the same blackness. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And we could see everything. You know, I mean, they use fireplay and the lighting off that. I mean, wonderfully.
Yeah, I think okay, so something that really impressed me with like the effects, um definitely like the beginning scene with like the elves, the last war when elves and men fought against
Sauron.
Mordor. Yeah,
Yeah.
that opening scene blew me away, made me like want to cry. And then like the way that the ring wraiths, when you put the ring on and saw
Yeah,
the wraiths, that was scary. I mean,
yeah, I
that
would
effect
agree,
scared me.
and the way it's shown, like with it's almost like ghosts with the blue
Convincing.
smoky, and yeah, it looks like another. You know, what do they call that world? It's like the void, or I forget what it's called.
Mhm.
The wraith world, or
Yeah, basically
and honestly, until
passing
you
into the
reminded me that
darkness.
I forgot we have the whole Sauron. You know, the end of the what is it, the third age or whatever, the second age.
It's passing into straight into the spirit realm, because in the spirit realm, good elves are seen as nothing but pure white light, and wraiths are seen as like darkness or whatever. That's, I mean, technically that's the way it is. So like you're blind, literally blinded by the light. If you have the ring on and you see an elf. So you remember when Arwen saved Frodo? Well,
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
said he had the ring on. He was passing into the spirit realm, and when you're in the spirit realm, it was nothing but like a shot that was just straight into white light, and then he woke up
yeah.
again. It's
Yeah.
because he was fading in the spirit realm and saw her as just that white entity.
Wow.
That's badass.
I
And sorry,
oh no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to say, who's it? Thranduil? No, it's not Thranduil. Who is it? Um, not F. There's a character that's actually um Fingolfin. It's Fingolfin, the one is the one that actually calls the waves that saves, like in the book. In
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
instead of
In the movie, it's
Arwen.
Arwen.
So
Yeah,
Arwen's like boosh boosh boo boo, whatever she says, calls the horse spirits in the
yeah,
water
yeah, yeah.
to come and wash the race away. But in the book, that's actually Fingolfin.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
not
The elfin, he's the king of that area or whatever, because
yeah,
we see him. Um, I mean, we spend a lot of time, and he's the main elf that we spend with in the Hobbit, right?
yeah. He's their
I think
main
so.
buddy. Yes, basically. Um,
He was the king that was preventing him to go, the one that had the barrel thing that
mhm.
they added
What
for
was
the
it?
movie.
Felagoons, Fin something Felagoon. Finrod, Felagoon, that's it is. I think maybe it's Finrod. Um, because Felagoon means friend of man or elves or something.
I will say if I had, yeah, it is friend of mine.
It's Fin.
I will
It's
have to say if
Finrod.
I had to think of a scene that didn't age that well, like thinking back on it, it is that water scene with the horses.
Mhm.
And like I get that it like the concept and everything's cool. It's supposed to be like these water horses come through, but if I had to say a scene that just didn't age well CGI wise, that's probably the one scene that I can think of that just like compared to everything else CGI wise, that's the only scene I can remember that actually like looks somewhat, half bad. Like I want to say it's middle ground, and I want to believe it's because of the water effects or something like that. It's been a while since I watched it.
Yeah, and it depends on like if you have a 4K. Certain things don't look good if you watch them in 4K. I don't know.
Now,
Who's
I
How
was
about
gonna
you?
say, as far as cool special effects stuff, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Balrog.
Yeah.
And that whole battle as they're like spiraling downward into that lake.
Yeah.
Yep.
Epic.
Because that was going into it, having read Fellowship and everything when I was a kid. I still remembered I always called it Balrog, but I still remembered that, and I was like, I want to see what he looks like.
That's actually, I could say that's one of my favorite things of all his movies is just the look of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, the Balrogs, the wizards, everything has a genuine, like, Tolkien look to it. But not only that, but like, it works well within that. I mean, it's like a Balrog now. It's awkward because Balrogs exist in other media, like,
Yeah.
but, and I'm pretty sure due to Tolkien's influence. But when you see them, they're not exactly the same. So I would have to say I didn't really, like all the concepts that and creations that we got within.
It's
Like
just
I love the orcs and.
Hey, I'm prepared to give credit where credit's due. Growing up, I'm a massive D&D person. I love Dungeons and Dragons, but we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for Tolkien.
Yeah,
I'm a
that's true.
firm believer in that.
Yep. I mean, yeah. I just think stylistically, in terms of production, everything is just so well done. They didn't like
Didn't
cheap
skip any
out.
corners.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I feel like at Rings of Power, some of the outfits, it looks like, dude, this is like polyester that looks like you spent $12 and like just slap that shit together. Like, respect this man and this medium. And I just feel like Peter Jackson really brought his A game and tried his best to make everything seem as realistic, like believable. Can you please, when you come into this theater, suspend your animation, suspend your level of belief, so that we're going to make this as real as we possibly can, even though it's a fairy tale, or
Yeah.
it's just
I want to say the experience that you get with the Peter Jackson films is that it's not just made by one person that was passionate. It seems like everybody involved, and even down to the actors, extras, everybody was passionate about, like you said, not skipping and actually putting the time in. Because even watching behind the scenes, and the effort, the time, just costumes and sets and it maybe Rings of Power is maybe like it's the example of like it was backed by some passionate people and not everybody on board was so passionate. Um, because
it will look, and it's about who you cast, who you recruit, and having that
same vision.
consolidated vision. Yeah, that
Mhm.
everybody shares the same vision. Yeah, and I think there are just some people like Peter Jackson showed like he has like scenes that he drew out of these movies when he was like a teen, and so like he was creating this movie before he was asked to create it,
Yeah.
basically. And so someone that's that devoted to the text, they really did their
It's a
best. And
shoe in.
I feel like it's a labor of love,
Yeah.
just like when you read certain comic book, right? Like when I read Claremont's X-Men or John Byrne's Fantastic Four, I feel like this is a
Yeah.
labor of love.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's kind of like in those examples, like of those, like with the Fantastic Four storyline, and they're coming to make this movie. Who would you want attached to that project? And you want someone that has that passion and that love of that story, has the knowledge, knows what it's about, kind of thing. And I believe that's what we got with Peter Jackson and everybody involved, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Thanks for asking me to come on. This was fun.
Yeah.
Let me
I
shoot the
love
shit
it.
for an hour.
Well, I was gonna say I was trying to figure out a way to form this into a question, but I don't think there's really a question. One of the things I found fascinating about the movies is the fellowship itself. Even the minor characters like Pip and Merrin that you would think would have no real purpose.
Substance, yeah.
Everybody ends up doing something that drastically changes their lives. I mean, every single person. Sam was the loyal friend that stood by Frodo's side no matter what. Think about it. If it wasn't for Sam, Frodo wouldn't have made it to Mount Doom. I mean, hell, even Gollum had a purpose for, he just wanted his precious back. But and Aragorn, and like Aragorn, he was a ranger that rejected his destiny until he finally embraced it. So I mean,
So he was forced into it.
Yeah. And everything from that until the little facts like haven't read the other two books, but I remember when Two Towers come out, everybody went, Shelob wasn't in it. Okay, but she's supposed to be in the other one. I hate the point. She's supposed to be in the second book. And I was like, okay. And then having only seen the theatrical version of Return of the King, when they show up at Isengard and they find the little crystal ball in the water, I went, where's Saruman? I mean, but that was one of the things I loved about watching the extended edition, because there was always this little behind the scenes thing where Peter Jackson would talk about how
this is why I chose to do it this way or something.
Yeah. He's like, well, we're gonna tell you how you get stabbed in the back, and dudes like Christopher Lee's like, do you really want to know what it's like for someone to get stabbed in the back?
You don't scream.
And I was like, that's cool and all, but I never saw him get stabbed in the back. And then I watched the extended editions and went, wow. And then furthermore, finding out that the actual ending to the Return of the King, there was the scouring of the Shire, and I want to see that now after I've heard about it.
Oh, it's really awful, because when you talk about so that's basically where Saruman takes over and industrializes, and he basically
he starts
with
the Shire.
He strips the Shire barren.
Yeah, he starts with the Shire.
He creates a long bottom leaf business, and he actually uses that to make money, and he sells all these goods, and the Shire ends up stripped of all its resources because Saruman has industrialized it, and the orcs are doing the business of that. And so, you know how Galadriel gave Sam that silver nut, or maybe or Sam, she gave him that, and he collected different seeds and stuff for different. He actually uses that silver nut from Galadriel and plants it, because the old tree was cut down. And so it's about starting new roots, and Sam, I think, Tolkien even admits that Sam is the real hero of the story. Because Sam never falters to the ring. The ring destroyed Frodo. He was scarred he had to go spend the rest of his days in Valinor he sailed away with the elves, because the evil that had touched him, he would never be able to escape. And part of that was being stung by the wraith, and part of that
stabbed.
Being a ring bearer. The ring bearers it's tough for them to come back. Sam
You're talking about parts of the lore of the ring, that there was no one on the Middle Earth that could withstand the power that existed within the One Ring.
And that's why Gandalf freaked out when he was oh.
You're talking about and going into just a written standpoint on examples of this and that within the book. I mean, you have Gollum, Sam, and Frodo, right? And each one tells a specific, distinct story, and they all have a specific, distinct purpose. But it's all an example of each of its own. You have Frodo who's living it, you have Sam who's preventing it, and you have Gollum is what happens if that's not there,
And you have Gandalf, who has seen Bilbo wrestle with it and have the insight that he tells, because Frodo's I just want to kill God. Or maybe it was Bilbo.
It's Bilbo.
It was but basically Bilbo wants to kill Gollum, and at one point Gandalf remarks, "It is the pity of Bilbo that has saved us all." Because if Bilbo had killed Gollum, Gollum would have never been present to take the ring and to jump into the fire from his pure greed. So it basically him, Tolkien emphasizing the point that real bravery is showing mercy. Real bravery is not acting out again in violence. Real bravery is love, brotherhood, mercy. That's forgiveness.
He's
That's
not
the
seeing the monster for just what the monster is and looking past that and seeing the levels within the monster, or the opposite, that it is fate driven and the monster plays a part in fate just like you do.
Yeah. And that you can't win by just dominating the previous dominator. It's got to be a different kind of change. And Gandalf emphasizes it's even like the bravest acts, even the smallest acts seem like the least important people. They can be the bravest acts, like Merry and Pippin making these these really important decisions that actually change the fate of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what the lineage of Merry getting that barrowed white blade and having it with him when he stabs the Witch King of Angmar in the ankle at the same time that Eowyn stabs him in the face. Like if he wasn't there, that wouldn't have happened. The Witch King.
Yeah.
This is like the fate of man.
Y'all was talking about Gandalf and Frodo. When y'all was talking about how Gandalf probably kind of knew what was going to happen to Frodo. When y'all was talking about that, I kind of pictured that part when they're all bickering in Rivendell about what to do, and seemed like to me that he was the first one to hear Frodo go, "I'll do it," and
I'll
then
take the ring.
you just kind of see Gandalf kind of lower his eyes,
Crushed him
like
because he
oh,
knew what it
hell.
would do.
Yeah,
He
You
knew
could
what it
already
would
see,
do.
and that scene is such a strong scene because there's so many things going on. You could already see the influence of the evil of the ring,
Yes,
even before it's brought out, and that's the whole
that's why they're
turmoil.
fighting.
Yeah,
It's the
that's
presence of that ring.
even
Right.
before they've seen the damn ring, like everything's going to chaos. You're talking about it's supposed to be one of the most peaceful places in Middle Earth. And when you walk into that scene, everybody's arguing, everybody's discontent. You don't even fully know what they're, unless you're reading captions and stuff, they don't really go into detail movie wise why they're arguing. It's
And
because of the damn ring.
and remember, Gandalf read the inscription, and Elrond
Yeah.
about pissed. He was like, that language, that tongue has never been uttered here." And then Gandalf's like, "Well, I just said it, bitch." No.
I'm going to touch upon one other thing that I absolutely loved, and Jeremy's heard me mention this before, about relationships with the characters. Throughout the whole series, you see Legolas and Gimli have this little competition,
Romance.
he's like never trust an elf, and then at the end, the part where he's standing there looking at the armies, going, "I never thought I would die next to an elf," and he goes, "How about next to a friend?" And he said, "Yeah, I can do that." I was like, "Yes."
Yeah. Or at the end where you see Gimli and Galadriel, and she shows him this grace and
Yeah.
gives him the three strands. What you don't know is that Feanor, he's from the Silmarillion. He created the Silmarils. You don't know about him. He was a freaky deaky uncle, Galadriel's uncle. He wanted 3 strands of her hair because her hair was like as golden as the trees of the light of Telperion. And the thing is that she gave him that. And so she showed him that in him, there was a capacity to forge a friendship between dwarves and elves where there had been revulsion and,
Animosity and
between.
Mhm.
And so I loved that.
Because it's something that's
And he had
not
such a
really.
crush on her. He was like, lady.
Yeah, he did. But there's something that's not really explained. It is through the comedy beats, but you don't really know the actual animosity between elves and dwarves that are really there. So those scenes hit different once you know that, like that kindness that she showed to Gimli during that scene.
That's
I
a
mean,
big deal.
Yeah, because yes, we do get a lot of the Gimli and Legolas back and forth, but it's more done in like a camaraderie, like elves are better, dwarves, okay, but if you really know the hatred between the two species, like how
The fact that they
mean,
got to that level is a lot of
yeah,
work,
yeah, and moments like that,
Frodo
especially
is one
that's
plus
being,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that I love that scene specifically. The gifts that she gives him in the moment that she has with Gimli, I think is one of the more special and you know.
Now, I'm going to bring something up just because I don't really hold any stock to it. I just think it's a fan theory. But I'd watched a video about whether or not there was a second boat by Legolas to Valinor and that Gimli might have actually been on it. I don't know about all that. And it sounded cool, but I was like, I doubt it.
Yeah. The final boat that sailed to Valinor had what's his name? Círdan the elf and
Yeah, the
Galadriel.
shipbuilder.
Yeah, they were the last. I mean,
Yeah.
Círdan and I think Galadriel and Bilbo
That's
and
what I was thinking.
Elrond, they were all on the final ship that sailed because Círdan the boatwright was an elf that lived there, and he was the only one capable of building boats that could sail to Valinor. And he took the very
Okay.
final boat built by an elf, and they deuced out. There was no more.
Well, I
They
figured
don't
it was.
really
I mean, Arwen, but she was a
they
human.
don't really have his character within the Lord of the Rings movies, and they don't touch base with him in The Hobbit. They do a little bit of Rings of the Power, but he's actually super important, like within that age, like and past that age. There was a big reason he was one of the last to go.
Yeah,
Um,
but
I was gonna say I noticed in my picture in my camera view it looks like my ring is shining. Hold on.
Yeah, he's got the one ring.
symbolic. That's right.
But no, I'm not gonna try. Now, but no, I just brought that up because I knew it was fan fiction, but I was like, but at the same time, went, well, that'd be kind of cool,
Yeah.
for all the fellowship to end up in Valinor. I thought that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, but I think Gimli and I think Legolas they chose their paths, and their home was in Middle Earth. Their homes were in Middle Earth,
Yeah.
and they were just a couple of I mean, so only a couple of the elves were left at that point, right?
And
Legolas.
this is okay, so this isn't like super known, but there are stories past Lords of the Rings, like and he had intended to go more in depth into like the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, but we do have small bits and pieces. I mean, if you read all those stories, that there was actually like Sauron was supposed to be coming back, like in a whole like thing where Morgoth was supposed to come back. He was actually kind of doing like a whole
I was actually
like.
I
wondering
heard
about
that. Yeah, I heard that like it was the mouth of Sauron that was supposed to be the big bad guy that was supposed to come back in the Fourth Age because
That's
this was
actually
his
one of
speech.
his books. Is the Mouth of Sauron,
Yeah.
and like that's what it is. It's supposed to be one of his followers that comes back, who it kind of does the whole necromancy thing where he brings back that magic. But technically, like in a nutshell, it looked like he was going to do like a Ragnarok thing where like, I mean, in a nutshell, it looked like, eventually Morgoth was going to come back, and that was going to be the end of kind of the fantasy age,
Yeah,
leading
what
us
was it?
into real.
Dagorath, the end of all ends, and that's when Morgoth was supposed to come back and like avenge and destroy
But
Middle Earth.
a
Jeremy's
lot
been
of
waiting
people.
for somebody to talk about Morgoth.
yes.
Yeah, okay, so Morgoth is huge because he's the first big bad, I
He's
mean,
like Satan.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's God, a god that's bad, and yes, a lot of people know the main three. Like I showed.
Sauron's just a general of Satan of Morgoth.
Right.
Like he just does his dirty work.
Wasn't Morgoth like Melkor?
That's the same name. Yeah. So
Same guy.
Melkor. Okay, Melkor
Orig-
was his original name
original name.
Yeah, before he had fallen. So as
Mhm.
the good boy, he was Melkor, and then when he had fallen and gotten kicked out, like the elves gave him like it was
No,
Fëanor, I think,
it's my dude. It's
and
it's the one
Elwë.
god that he's nah. It's the one dude. It's the
Manwë?
one god that he's afraid of. If
Oh,
is that
old
it's there.
Talos,
It's with
Tulkas.
the T.
Tulkas. It's Tulkas.
Maybe
Tulkas.
Tulkas.
It's
Because there
Tulkas
is one god that he's afraid of, and it's the
because
one
he's
god
physically
who.
the strongest. But he doesn't. He
Yeah,
can't
he was like
look.
physically
Yeah,
strong.
Tulkas is the one that can keep him in
Nah,
check.
he's not okay. So he's strong and everything, but he's not that cool of a guy. Like even though he could stand up to
He's
Melkor, when
just
it came
beast.
down to the things, he
He's
usually,
not smart.
yeah, usually he wasn't present, or like I mean, he was cool that Melkor had some type of opposition, because
There
that
was a
when you got
balance.
down, yeah. I mean, no, but technically, like he was given that name by that god once he was like, because he ends up
Like
destroying like something.
Eru made Melkor the strongest and the best of his angel. He was like the favorite. It's the Lucifer story.
Right.
Hmm.
And
Lucifer and Satan.
and basically so Eru was the only entity that could create new beings that had sentience, and Melkor was basically butthurt that he couldn't create
Create.
new sentient. He wanted to be able to do that and to dominate and will. And when there were the Ainulindale, when Eru and the other gods were singing Middle Earth into creation, Melkor actually sang against the harmony. He sang a discord into the earth. And then so that's the whole part. And so after that, he basically
And
had
the coolest part of that is that Melkor thought he was going against the plan and everything. No, when what's his face laid it all out, it was actually part of the plan to begin with, that he was going to
You
go
have
against.
added beauty through your discord, and do not
Yeah.
think that you were not a creation of mine. I knew that this would be.
That's a god, baby. That's a
No,
god. Like you can see all those angles. He
I
knew
knew you were
that he
gonna play
was
the B
gonna.
minors, bitch.
Yep, I knew that you were gonna go to the drums, and that's all you wanted to do when everybody else was on flutes and
Yeah.
precision instruments. And,
Play the saxophone.
no, okay. So in the story, like in a nutshell, we're talking about they're creating stuff, the races, and eventually these two lights are created that are super important to like all of Lord of the Ring lore. And Melkor gets pissed off, and Morgoth ends up, he gets pissed and he kills these two lights, and from that point on, that's when he's branded, Melkor or Morgoth or whatever it is. But that's when he's given.
Morgoth.
That's
by
when
the
he's given
elves.
the other
Such a
name.
badass name. I don't care who you are.
Yeah,
Both of them,
Morgoth.
Melkor and Morgoth, man.
Well, Melkor was his name when he was like the
The
original.
angel.
the
Yeah.
angel. That was his
Morgoth is
OG
when he goes bad,
when he turns into when he rotten apples out.
because he's got quite a bit of cool stories in there, like his whole plot before Sauron. Because I love Sauron, but Morgoth's got some cool stuff in there too. And, I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about he created all the dragons, like
The version
Or-
1, iteration 1, and then like Sauron basically was the one that, I mean, they got smaller, but they had
Mutated.
flight. Yeah,
yeah.
but I'm
He
gonna
also
have to head out here
created the
soon.
Balrogs.
Yeah,
What's
I was
that?
gonna say we can wrap it up here in a minute, but before we all take off, what's your favorite live action movie out of the
What out of the
Out of the trilogy?
Well, we'll throw in the Hobbit movies. I mean,
Lord of the Rings. I mean, so the favorite, I mean, for me, it's going to have to be Return of the King, because you have the convalescence, everything crescendos, and you have a resolution. But
Yeah.
I mean, I have the extendeds, and I want to watch beginning to end, where it's one chunk.
yeah.
for
I
me
agree.
it's so hard, because that's the choice. It's either which is better, The Hobbit or Lords of the Rings, because I see it all as one collected story kind of thing, because it's so hard, because I love bits. I mean, and he did it so well where they don't feel like separate entities, like Two Towers to The Return. I felt it weird that they had names to those other, that it wasn't just like Lords of the Rings, one, like part 1, part 2, part 3, like
That's
something like that.
So the history behind that is Tolkien wanted his to be a book, one book. The publisher would not let him publish one big fat book.
And he had to bring,
So he was
because it was
forced
supposed to
put
look
in
like
history.
it was supposed to look like this, all one,
But
No, but I want to say for me, the answer is kind of cheap, but I like The Fellowship and Return of the King. Like, I love them both. Like, and I love Two Towers too. I mean, But if I had to pick like a favorite, it's between those two. Like I go back and forth. Like I love the beginning and the end.
What
About
about you?
Jeremy?
Two Towers.
A lot of people say that that's their favorite, to be fair.
Well, the reason why I was asking is because I tried to do a poll for the last few days on my Converse channel, and unfortunately, you can only put 4 things in there because I wanted to put the other 2 Hobbit movies. But the end results were
Damn,
the
Fellowship by a
Fellowship
hair.
got 31, yeah, and then Return got
Towers
29. Yeah,
See,
Two Towers got that surprised me because I agree with Carolyn. As much as I love Fellowship, the Return was a bow, put a bow on
Yeah.
the whole story. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot of
it's
things were.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
it's
give
the
it that.
Homecoming.
For me, it's like each one up their game. You know, it's like it starts out and you get basic fantasy in the first one, and it's like the second one you get ants and
The second
I
one
mean
is
they
the War
just
of the Ents and a lot of
they upgrade it, and then the third one you get Ghost and you get Witch Kings and you get I mean it's like each one it's like how can and that's what he did with the story. Like progressively, like it got more fantastical, it got more, I mean, you're talking about like going into that story. I had no idea we were going to meet a legion of a dead army that was going to fight for the good guys,
Yeah.
and I mean, no, there was some cool stuff in there.
yeah.
Okay, now if you alter that question just a little bit and ask
Yeah.
what was your favorite soundtrack out of all those, my answer is definitely Two Towers. And one of the big reasons is because we got the end song from Enya. Like,
Yeah.
you're talking about that. When I think of Lord of the Rings, that's actually the song that comes up in my mind and it's Howard Shore, but it's that. Oh, I love that. What? And
Jeremy,
I think the song is "What May Be." I think that's the name of the song.
I was gonna say, Jeremy, you didn't even get to show off your new book you got, but
Show us.
show us.
Oh well, it's just the it's kind of like a dictionary of all the tokens, all the characters and stuff.
Like a compendium.
Ooh, a compendium.
The
Yeah.
Complete Guide to Middle Earth. Oh, that's a nice
Oh
one.
yeah,
Definitive
it's on my
guide.
list.
Yeah, it has like it kind of breaks down the first age, the events of the first age, and then kind of it's like a dictionary, small little maybe
Yeah.
a little encyclopedia. Maybe has a little entry for
There's so many names, dude. Like seriously
Yeah.
though, and they're all sound the same. There's umpteen people start with an F.
Yeah, it has artwork kind of
Yeah, that's
scattered
great.
throughout it, so
Mhm.
that's pretty good.
I love the and so Tolkien was kind of like an amateur artist, and he did a lot of pictures of how he envisioned Middle Earth, or like Rivendell, or different places. But
Another thing that we didn't give him credit for is his cartography skills were like, I mean,
maps.
yeah, his
Oh, yeah,
maps like are like unmatched. And
Badass.
it's not something that he gets a lot of credit for. Well, he gets some credit, but I
fact.
mean, you're talking about like it's a skill that not a lot of people have, and I mean, to have that to go with all this is just fantastic.
He's about to hit us with some
Hold on.
first age,
Oh,
second
snap.
age, third
This is-
age.
This was in the Silmarillion, so I'm guessing it's the
That's
first age.
age. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's got Balerians. If if Balerian's above water, it's first age.
Yeah, I don't know if it's upside down. Yeah, okay, that's right.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
See, I'd iron that out, get it framed, put it up
You
on
know,
the wall.
That's a good idea right there. I
Just
didn't
get
think
some
about that.
parchment paper, iron it, get them seams out, and bam, you got some nice
is a
deco.
Damn good idea. I love that.
Well,
I'm
guys,
gonna
let's
get
go.
out of here soon.
I was gonna say, let's go around the
Yeah.
horn. We'll start with Caroline. What y'all got coming up this week? I know Jeremy doesn't have a channel, but
I don't know. I'll do something. I'm gonna be on Legion's Lair Friday mornings. Usually I'm on there talking trash.
He ended this week with it.
And Miss Kitty says, "Hey, I've got a little. This is my golem. Mhm.
Her precious.
Precious.
Yeah,
They're
she's my precious. She burns.
She
up.
is.
Mike, what you got coming up, man?
Nothing this week. I don't know if me and Trevor doing a live. That's something I gotta check I usually check Sunday morning, so don't quote me. But normally we do have our live stream, so I might be on tomorrow night. Well, I'll have to check. Next week, me, Tony, a couple other guys, we're doing our next part into our Dragonlance, Dragons of Winter Night. It's part 3 of that series. I was hoping it was only going to be a part 3 series, but it might be like a part 4. I don't care. It's such a good time. We're just sitting there talking about books, and it's a fun time breaking it down and asking the questions. But that's pretty much it. And like I was supposed to do a live tonight, but it got canceled due to a bunch of things. I'm sick. Steve is currently sick. I'm dealing with power outages. No, but eventually I'm touching base with Stephen King and Peter Straub's The Talisman, and I'm breaking that down and looking forward to that kind of thing.
That's cool. Well, for me personally, let's see. Monday, I'm going to drop probably one of the last mail calls I do for a while. I got some books from Durs off of Whatnot and Rups Comics. That'll be pretty cool. Now, this last Friday, which I'm surprised hardly anybody's watched it, but I'm going to go ahead and mention. Last Friday, I dropped a comic spotlight on Batman: The Killing Joke.
Oh, snap.
So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I had a lot of fun putting it together. And next week, this coming Friday, I'm going to be doing another comic spotlight on Avengers number 6, which is the first appearance of Baron Heinrich Zemo and the Masters of Evil.
Nice.
However, Wednesday night, I will be on Guess That Key with Sector 2815, Legion of Comics, and Cliff. And I got to figure out what key I'm going to use, because every time I pick one, I'm like, no, I think they'll figure that one out. I got to find something else that they ain't going to expect is me.
You got to go off the wall. I've stumped a couple people on there. It's a fun show.
There's some out there. We can help you.
My suggestion is go bronze. No one ever thinks of Bronze Age. They're always thinking silver or modern.
Well, see, here's the thing. The one I actually am leaning more toward is a bronze. Well, actually, I should shut up. Never mind.
Because I got them with the first appearance of the Max. I got them with
I'll just put it this way: if they really paid attention to my ramblings in the last year or so, they'll probably find out pretty easy.
Copper might be good too. Some copper stuff.
Yeah,
that's
Keep
true.
them on their toes.
And then next week will be, if I do a live show, which I'm currently planning on doing, probably an hour earlier, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, will be episode 50. So that'll be kind of cool. And I'm kind of hawing. If I can find something cool, I may do a giveaway or two. And I'm not going to broadcast or nothing. If you're hearing it here, I'm just going to say possibly a giveaway. And then the next time you're going to hear about the giveaway is the live show.
Is the giveaway.
Yeah. I'm not gonna broadcast or nothing. And then we'll just go from there. But I want to thank Caroline. I want to thank Mike. I want to thank my brother Jeremy for hanging out. I learned a lot of stuff I didn't know. I'm going to buy these books. I'm going to buy these books and read them. And because, like I said, as much as I love the films, I got to read the books.
There's so much more.
There's so much more.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to thank everybody hanging out in the chat for the show. I want to thank everybody watching this on the rerun. Everybody, thank y'all. And we're going to do this again. And maybe sometime down the road, Mike will do a deep dive on the books. That might take you about 6 months, but
they're chunky.
Good luck.
I can already see Mike's like, no.
It's been done. No.
But before we go, though, I meant to mention this earlier. Was talking about influences when I mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. My favorite writer is R. Salvatore. Everybody knows how much I love Drizzt. As far as influences go, I told Caroline this in the chat.
Yeah. Tolkien, baby.
He had his college major to be a certain thing. I don't even remember what it was. And he got a copy of Lord of the Rings as a Christmas gift from his sister. And they got snowed in, so he read it. And then after it was all over with, he changed his major to writing. So, I mean.
Do that.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching. We will see y'all next time. We're going to get out of here. Until next time, everyone, be safe. Take care. God bless. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Toodles.
Bye.
Well, dudes, I'd say that's pretty much a wrap. Yep. Cowabunga?
Cowabunga!
Yeah!
Cowabunga!